Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Little Lunch Lectures today, December the 11th. I'm glad you could take a minute out of your Friday to join with us. My name is Stephanie Bourret. I'm the Director of Donor Relations at the Coastal Land Trust. I was going to say here at the Coastal Land Trust, but clearly I'm not at the Coastal Land Trust, so welcome from my living room. For any first-timers with us at the Lunch Lectures today, I did want to let you know that we are recording and we are on Facebook Live. There will be some links in the chat just to kind of keep you guys up to date. If you want to join our e-news, please do. That would be great. They're going to be over there in the chat in a little minute. And then finally, just a little housekeeping. We'll keep everybody on mute. And then at the end, we'll have some time for Q&A. Also feel free to write questions into the chat as you think of them throughout the presentation, and we can circle back around to those at the end and get those answered for you. Y'all are in for a real treat today because Coastal Land Trust member and volunteer Trish Farnham is with us to talk about Brunswick Nature Park and to tell the story of how the community helped create this very special place. She'll share a little bit more about her story in the presentation, but suffice to say that her enthusiasm and dedication for Brunswick Nature Park has been an absolute delight to those of us on the Coastal Land Trust staff. In her day job with the Department of Health and Human Services, Trish has learned to be curious about the civic dimension of any community effort, and that perspective has allowed her to see how unique the partnership is that created Brunswick Nature Park. And she's here to talk a little bit about that story. Also want to welcome Dave Elligood, the president of our local Cape Fear Sorba chapter, another really amazing partner at Brunswick Nature Park. Without them, there would be way less cool stuff there. So,
well said.
With that, welcome Trish and Dave and everybody, and let's hear this community story.
Wow, Stephanie, thank you so much for that introduction, and also thank you for this opportunity. I, for reasons that hopefully will become very evident, have a deep love for this space that the Land Trust has played such a pivotal role in creating. So I just appreciate the opportunity to talk about it. Like many storytellers, I am actually not at the origin of this story in any way. I simply love this space, and for, again, kind of walking through how that came to be, I'll walk through how I learned about this history and how I grew to really just appreciate its history. But I feel very humbled to be the storyteller today for a story that was really created by a lot of people who are on the call, which is very exciting, but also by an entire community. So again, I just take that role very humbly today and appreciate your all's interest in hearing it. So let's see if we can make the tech work here. Okay. So, you know, part of my hobby interest is I love to write. I kind of am an informal essayist, and I find that writing is a really good expression release for me on a lot of various things. And I felt compelled, the more I learned about the nature park, I really felt compelled to write this. And people are like, well, that's interesting, but why did you write a story about a park again? And the reasons that I did really are very selfish and very self-interested, because the park story really reflects so many of the things and the values that matter to me personally. Values of relationship, values of health, values of community, values of the importance of nature, and also a deep love for this region. So I really just found myself drawn to learning more about this incredible space. Frankly, like I said, because of a lot of my own personal values and interests. So I'm a bureaucrat, and I work for the Department of Health and Human Services. I am a senior health policy analyst that works for the director of the Medicaid program. And so we are all about data and metrics and statistics. And so I wanted to start off a little bit saying the things that I know the folks on this group know well. And as we can appreciate, we are living in a very, very complex era. And we have a number of complicated problems, both nationally and locally, that we need to figure out. And one of the reasons that I love the nature park and I love natural spaces is because they seem to provide an organic solution or a contribution to the solution for almost every problem. And I think it's really important to articulate the value and the nexus of the natural space, the value of natural space, to solving some very, very complex dynamics in our world. I'm also very grateful for the nature park specifically because of where I live personally. My husband and I live in Brunswick County, and as this group probably well knows, we are in one of the fastest growing areas in the country, certainly in the state, but in the country. And as growth and development happen all around us, which is inevitable and in many ways invited, it's really becomes that much more important for me personally and for us as a community to protect and to recognize the indelible contribution that natural spaces create to our community well-being. So I originally wrote this as a written piece, and so in an era, if you all are like me in my day job, which I'm having a lovely respite from right now, if you all are like me, you all are probably bombarded with PowerPoints and bullet points and talking points and quick snips of discussion and quick recaps, things that are making our world very technical and very fast-paced. And I wrote this story, like I said, in written form. And if it's okay with this group, I would like to return to that form. So my hope is that you all will see this as a good thing and not as a headache that this lady is yammering on and on about the nature park, but rather see it as an opportunity to slow down yourself, to take a bit of a mental respite, an emotional respite from a very, very busy world, and hopefully enjoy some storytelling. So I'm going to kick it off with my story now, if that's okay. And then my understanding from Stephanie is that at the end, we will have time for questions. Not only do we have time for questions, but there are a number of kind of special guest stars that I'm really happy are here for this particular session. So you have some incredible sources of history and insight on this call today. And I really hope that we all can pique your interest in this amazing space. Research now clearly supports what nature lovers have long known. Nature is good for people. Whether enhancing the marketability of a region or improving a community's health, the human benefit of natural spaces continues to be recognized in the academic literature and in our own personal experience. Yet in an age defined by growth and expansion, preserving natural spaces has become an increasingly deliberate act. As someone who values time outside and lives in a rapidly developing region, I now hold these spaces even more sacred, finding personal restoration among the trees and a quiet respite from our very loud world. Discovering the Brunswick County Nature Park 5 years ago felt like a desperately needed divine intervention. Like many others in our region, my love of the park now runs deep. It has served as a place of personal spirituality, of personal accomplishment, of Sunday ritual. I married my sweet husband at the park overlooking Town Creek. As a public servant, I have long understood that doing what's right for the common good including preserving our natural spaces, doesn't happen by default or by accident. It requires intention. It requires collaboration. It requires heart. And inevitably, at the center of every great endeavor lies a visionary with a compelling vision. I learned about Brunswick Nature Park's visionary while raking alongside Pam Watkins. Sometimes a single question can render remarkable discovery. And as we raked one of the park's trails, in fact, this one, I asked Pam a simple question of genuine interest. Her gentle, unassuming nature humbled the significance of her response. So what makes the nature park so special to you, Pam? Well, my husband Bruce helped create it. Conversations over rakes led to email exchanges. Emails led to lunches, and lunches with Pam, the leaders of the Coastal Land Trust, Cape Fear Sorba, and the Brunswick County Parks and Planning teams resulted in this chronicling of how a beloved park came to be. Much like the story it attempts to tell, this writing isn't neatly packaged. It is not a complete history lesson. It is not a research paper. Perhaps it is a case study, but I write it as a tribute to the park's creators, Bruce Watkins, the staff of the Coastal Land Trust, the staff of the Brunswick County government, and the community leaders within Cape Fear Sorba, and a recognition of the partnership, work, and endurance it took to fulfill a vision. So what led a man to become a visionary? Bruce Watkins' vision of creating the park began with a simple love that found an opportunity, a love of paddling, a love of natural spaces, a love of Brunswick County. Bruce endeared himself to many by finding easy relationship both with nature and with everyone else. In 1999, International Paper proposed developing 10,000 acres as a huge planned residential development in a county where few planned, preserved natural spaces existed. As plans unfolded, conservationists found an opening to save several thousand acres for nature. Love met opportunity, and a vision of the nature park emerged. But visionaries without action remain dreamers. A vision can only be truly advanced through relationship. And the park's origin story is one defined by collaboration. The North Carolina Coastal Land Trust history deserves its own telling, as it also is a story of vision and partnership. Founded by the Trust's executive director, Camilla Hurlovich, and three others, the Coastal Land Trust has steadily advanced its mission to enrich the coastal communities of North Carolina through conservation of natural areas and working landscapes, education, and the promotion of good land stewardship. By acquiring and conserving, and I think this is an outdated number, over 72,000 acres of coastal property. Bruce was well suited for his work at the Trust, serving alongside Camilla and Jessica Blake as a land acquisition specialist. Playing to their individual strengths and appreciating those of others, Bruce, Camilla, Jessica, and other land trust staff were able to advance Bruce's vision for the park in a way that was both simultaneously realistic and aspirational. When Bruce's vision first emerged, International Paper was in discussion with Brunswick County about rezoning the property for both residential and commercial development. With development discussions well underway, Bruce's vision of a nature park as an alternative purchase option did not, and I love this phrase, initially resonate with International Paper and Brunswick County leadership. The Land Trust's strategic pivot exemplifies the public policy concept of radical incrementalism. In her telling of how the park came to be, Camilla remembers noting to Bruce that there isn't enough money in the state to propose a viable alternative purchase option, to which Bruce replied, "So what if we just do part of it?" And over the next year, Bruce and the Land Trust team cultivated relationships essential to advancing a now more viable vision. New and existing relationships formalized into partnerships that reach beyond the park's creation and continue today. Because of collaboration, International Paper's original plan to develop all of its property as a multi-use development made space for conservation. Because of collaboration, Brunswick County staffers produced the resources needed to establish a park on the property purchased. Because of collaboration with other like-minded community groups like Cape Fear Sorba, the park reflects the interests and needs of the community it serves. As a civil servant, I'm always curious about the civic dimension of any community effort. Rarely does the general public appreciate the role governmental entities play in enhancing community life. We as citizens are far more likely to grouse over red tape or criticize policy missteps than to acknowledge and affirm the community enhancements government staffers facilitate. Yet a government's commitment to enhancing community life often hinges on the mindset of its staffers. The park's own story underscores this truth. A place of trees and wildlife with almost a development of buildings and concrete. Because Bruce's vision found kinship with the county's parks and planning staff, the fate of the property permanently shifted. Long identified as the fastest growing county in North Carolina and among the fastest in the country, Brunswick County has been in perpetual transition for over 20 years. As a Brunswick County resident, I witnessed the steady, seemingly incessant conversion of fallow land to new residential and commercial developments. Our county's residents and tax base have both benefited from the conveniences and the amenities that this growth produces. But growth must be sustainable. And cities and regions that do the hard work of balancing growth with conservation, economic development with environmental impact, and commercialization with community life create highly desirable places to live. Finding this balance is always a tightrope walk for public officials and deserves particular acknowledgement when there is little precedent for doing so. The creation of Brunswick Nature Park, from Bruce's vision to its incremental collective implementation, helped set a precedent for this balance in southeastern North Carolina. With no Brunswick County example to follow, the Brunswick County Parks and Planning teams ventured into new territory by endorsing the nature park concept. This endorsement was well informed. The staffers appreciated the county's growth. The public had articulated its supports for parks, and staff had drawn additional insight from complementary planning happening throughout the region. The staff also recognized that nature parks engage community members who may be uninterested or unable to participate in the activities traditional parks support. Yet, staff still acknowledge they moved forward even if we weren't quite sure what we would be doing. Setting precedent in any context means having the courage and the foresight to think differently, to see an opportunity, to take a step onto the high wire of a new experience. In taking the step to create the nature park, a new type of public space in Brunswick County, the county staff set precedent and expanded the scope of what is valued in Brunswick County. The creation of the nature park is a study in property law and public-private partnerships. In 2003, 4 years after Bruce had shared his original idea, the Coastal Land Trust secured resources from the North Carolina Clean Water Management Trust Fund to purchase more than 900 acres from International Paper. Once procured, the trust attached a conservation easement to the property, enabling the trust to restrict the property's use in order to protect its conservation values. Recognizing the county's capacity to develop the property into a park, the trust then transferred ownership of the property to Brunswick County the following year. The property's use parameters are established through a regularly updated Memoranda of Understanding, or an MOU, between the trust and Brunswick County. The trust maintains oversight of the county's adherence to the easement as a condition of its funding. The funding purchased the property, but it took additional resources. The original funding purchased the property, but it took additional resources secured by Brunswick County planning staff to transform the property into a park and to meet the environmental requirements under the landmark 1973 Coastal Area Management Act. In late 2006, Brunswick County was awarded $400,000 in CAMA funding to create a conceptual plan and begin developing the park. This funding was essential to master planning the park as well as securing permit authorization from the North Carolina Department of Environmental Quality. At the time of its award, it was the largest CAMA grant Brunswick County had ever received. Infrastructure is rarely glamorous, but it's always essential. The resources secured by the Brunswick County planning team through CAMA grant and subsequent grants established the foundations for safe, sustainable driving access into the park, accessible restroom facilities and drinking water, a kayak launch, picnic shelters, and trash and recycling receptacles. Sustainable growth must recognize the importance of natural spaces, but paradoxically, growth can also be a catalyst for preserving natural spaces. Brunswick County planning staff began noticing a shift in the public's interest towards parks in 2002. The timeframe aligns with the county's increase in multifamily housing. As the county grew, so did the public's interest in preserving its natural landscape. While the preservation of natural habitat should never result in its sequestration, the public's desire for natural space helps better ensure these spaces are proactively protected. A devotion to protecting land often stems from one's engagement with it. Bruce's vision emerged from his love of paddling and being in natural spaces. And as the county moved forward in transforming the property to a park, it was driven by the question, what does the community want? The county asked this question to the general public through surveying and to its citizen-based advisory design committee. And from the answers to this question, the park's design began to take shape. The community wanted places to walk, places to ride horses, places to kayak, places to ride mountain bikes. Devotion requires engagement. Engagement requires access. Meaningful access to the park requires trails. Trails that can be enjoyed regardless of athletic ability, age, or speed. Trails that lead to individual contemplation, physical health, fellowship with others, and time with family. Trails that sustain our collective dedication to protecting the areas that shelter them. Developing trails also requires labor, as many of us can personally attest. And by engaging the broader community in its planning, the Trust in Brunswick County found a strong, well-organized community partner in Cape Fear Sorba. Founded in 2009, Cape Fear Sorba is a homegrown, internationally affiliated organization that works to promote mountain biking access. Beyond facilitating personal recreation, trail networks play a valuable role in nurturing ecotourism. This three-way collaboration launched the park's trail network that all visitors now enjoy. As a group willing to put in the work needed to sustain its passion, Sorba volunteers are steadfastly committed to maintaining the trails and remain the most organized community group supporting the park. Visionaries are always ahead of their time, finding new inspired paths for meeting community needs. Driven by a love and insistence, visionaries help us move beyond tired assumptions and habitual thinking. Visionaries awake the collective consciousness within us. The visionary fades, the vision is sustained. Bruce Watkins died in June 2013. Most of us who adore the park did not know who we had lost. Had the contribution of Bruce's vision simply resulted in the nature park's creation, it would have been story enough. But the Brunswick Nature Park has permanently expanded how Brunswick County parks are defined. County staff note that the park design work has served as a template for other passive park initiatives throughout the county. And meaningfully, the concept of a nature park in Brunswick County, a concept that was radical in 1999, is now assumed and even expected. A Brunswick County 2009 master plan revealed the majority of county residents want varied places to hike, walk, and bike. Bruce and countless other visionaries throughout the world help us see what is possible when we preserve natural spaces. We, as a public, usually without even knowing it, then integrate their vision into our own values. Serendipitously, I finished this tribute in the same month that the park had a dedication to Bruce. And on May 19th of last year, 2019, a group gathered around a sculpture erected in his honor to pay tribute to the park's founding spirit. We came together at Dogwood Trailhead. We looked out over Town Creek. The park was beautiful and full of people. All of us, whether attending the dedication or simply enjoying a Sunday afternoon, loved being there. It was a vision realized. As I was preparing for this talk, and I was reflecting on, again, why I love this space, the timing of this was really good because I was asked by Stephanie last Friday or Thursday or Friday, and I happened to be going to the park on Saturday for a trail day, a trail maintenance day. And so I used the opportunity just to stop people who were visiting the park and ask them the same question that I asked Pam, which is, why do you love this place? Why do you love the Brunswick Nature Park? And I just thought it might be neat to share some of the answers I got as I happily accosted people who were enjoying their Saturday morning. I heard I can get away from the busyness of my life. I heard that I love the mountain biking programs that happen here. That's all Sorba, by the way. Its trails are so well maintained. Dave and I actually ran into each other on Saturday and ran into the same person from California who was just glowing about the trails and how well maintained they were. Just to be in nature. It's time with my family. There were so many families enjoying the park. And as an aside, I have to say, is I used to go to the park because I loved the quiet and I loved the sound of the trees and the bird song. And now I go to the park and I love hearing kids' laughter. And I remember Pam saying something that Bruce said that is so important for us all to remember, is that people love and people protect what they love. And when we see kiddos enjoying the park, that is such an optimistic sign for the future of natural spaces. The last reflection is from a friend of mine who was characteristically contemplative, and I think her comment reflects a lot of how we all feel about this place. I have always enjoyed Brunswick Nature Park, hiking, biking, kayaking. During the pandemic, the park has become a much-needed safe oasis from the challenges we face each day. A place I can breathe a little more easily while I'm here. A place that creates a feeling of peace that is maintained long after I leave. With that, I thank you for your time, and I really appreciate once again the opportunity to share this incredible story, and I'm so humbled to be among so many of those folks who made this story possible. So thank you.
Trish, thank you very much. I'm actually having a little bit of a moment. Your story is really beautiful, and thank you for being with us today and sharing it. Brunswick Nature Park has meant a lot to my family because you've probably heard my kids laughing on those trails as they're zooming around on their bikes. So it's really neat. When we moved here in 2007, there was a article in the newspaper just barely starting to talk about the thing that was going to be, and I remember a conversation with my husband saying, "Well, that sounds kind of neat. That will be neat to go to someday." And we didn't know at the time that it would be so important to our family that was very young at that time. So, so thank you for helping me remember that. I would love to hear from other folks. I don't know, Pam, if you would like to say a few words, or Dave, would love to hear from you, from Sorba, or if anyone has questions. Now is the time we just have a little conversation, a little Q&A.
I guess I made it to my mute button before anyone else did. So, no, as Cape Fear Sorba, we get looked at as just the guys who build trails for bicycles, but there's so much more behind that. Knowing enough about Bruce through a really good friend of mine, Ralph Beer, who I cycled with a lot. I mean, when Ralph used to stop me and he would just pause out there in the woods and go, man, this is one of my best friend's visions out here. And we're taking that vision and we're the action part of it. So, it's one thing when you create a park and, everybody knows, hey, there's a park down the road. But when you can create these trails and avenues for people to actually immerse themselves into those parks, it's a totally different thing. And to hear stories like Trish's, where we've truly affected somebody. I mean, to the point where she got married on the property, and it's stories like that just blow me away daily. And I'm a lot like Trish. When I get out there, I talk to everybody. I had taken a good friend of mine, Tina, out there because she had never hiked the area before. I had some other stuff I was doing, but I figured it was a good time to mix business with pleasure. So we did some walking around. I showed her stuff, and from the beaver dam to the different trees and the flowers and stuff that grow around there, and how we take those trails and not just build a trail just to have a trail. We build it toward sustainability. That way they're going to be there for a long time. You don't want to just build a straight trail. You want to weave in and out of those longleaf pines and just to enjoy the terrain and everything. And even in the 911 acres that's out there, there's so much difference from one side to the other. So, it blows my mind that how many people you pull in that parking lot and see a full parking lot. And I just whip out my business cards and I start passing them out like a dealer in Las Vegas because I want to hear from people. What else do you want? We've added. I mean, I remember the first time I was out there, there was a mile, 1.25 miles, I believe, was the original hiking trail. And now we have almost 10 miles. Just last year, we were able to incorporate the roads and do a full 13.2 mile loop for a half marathon. We had one of the first events for the NICA kids, which I know Stephanie was very involved in that. So, I mean, there's been so many things that have blossomed out of this 911 acres that I could go on and on, but I'm just going to stop myself right there. So back on mute. But thank you, Trish, for your story. And thank you, Land Trust, and everybody involved in that. One of these days, I'm actually going to kick myself out of here and go ride the trails and hide. But like I said, I'm going on mute now.
Well, I would like to follow up with Dave's moment because, we spent some time talking about the origin of this vision, but the story's not over. And from going that 1.5 miles to the 13 that they're able to do now isn't the end goal. So I think at one point you're going to eventually potentially see a good 26 miles out there for a full marathon. And the county is committed to moving forward. Sorba is so active in maintaining and expanding trails. Everyone understands the restrictions. It is just a dream that continues to grow and expand. And even people that never met Bruce walk away with this newfound love of nature, and they take that love of nature and touch another space with another vision, and it just continues to grow. So 100 years from now, there's places that are saved they're changing people's lives in the outdoors, and it started from their one moment touching Brunswick Nature Park in the very beginning.
I think Pam and Judd Watkins are both on. Either of you guys want to say anything? Thank you, Trish.
I think that was what Dave has said, as well as Stephanie. It's just so nice. I know that Bruce did enjoy the just totally being outside, but I went with him on the bike trails a couple of times. So Sorba has been incredible, and we love doing it with Ralph and Betsy. And sadly they're not here anymore. They've moved on to enjoy other trails, but it's so fun to hear that it continues to get better and better. And I know that makes Bruce happy, because that was the whole purpose. I mean, his spiritual place was truly outdoors. So thank you all for everything that you've done. Trish, I just love the way you summarize it all and bring it all together. So Camilla,
it's a real privilege.
Tell that crew we love them, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Sure will.
All right.
I just want to piggyback what everybody said about Dave and Sorba and their great work. When my father first took me out with the international paper guys to this park, I think I was still in high school at the time. He loved the topography. How many places in southeastern North Carolina do you get to see these big high bluffs and rolling hills? And I can't speak highly enough of the trail crews out there. I mean, he and Ralph would just ride and ride and ride. And they're two giddy little boys out there. They call themselves the Sissy Boy Bike Club because they never bike when it was under 50 degrees. And it's really cool. Ralph and Bruce had the opportunity to ride Warrior Creek, which is a world-class bike trail in Wilkes County, the western part of the state. And that, I think, made it more realistic that even down here we could get some of those really cool berms and you can really bank out on a bike. So from a kid that grew up biking in nothing but sand behind UNCW to have the opportunity to go out and get on some world-class trails in an area that's almost flat as a pancake everywhere else. You guys have really brought that park to life in a way that I don't even think Dad could have visualized. So thank you for everybody who has worked hard on that.
Well, thank you for that. Yeah, Ralph finally beat me one time out there, but now he may have graduated from the Sissy Boy Club because he moved to like Montana and
yeah, it's cold out there.
It's a little bit cold there, but
yeah.
Betsy got an e-bike, so she rides with him now.
Nice. Yeah, I can't tell you how many times I saw Ralph go over his handlebars out there, even on the beginner trails.
Well, I'll have to tell you a good story about that. When he did borrow an e-bike one day, and we went for a nice little tour, and he came back with broken glasses.
Sounds like Ralph.
Yes.
This is Camille. I just want to give a shout out to Scott Pullman and Nancy Guthrie from the. I want to give a brief shout out to Nancy Guthrie and Scott Pullman, who are with what used to be the North Carolina Clean Water Management Trust Fund, which provided the funding for the purchase of this property. So as Trish said, it's a lot of people and a lot of heroes and heroines. So thank you all at the state of North Carolina. We really appreciate it.
And Camilla, if I may jump in here, I was wanted to say that, I know that receiving the funding from the state for the acquisition of the land is only a small part. It's just the beginning. It's what the Coastal Land Trust has been able to do with communities throughout the coastal plain. And I think this is just a shining example of how you take the funding and just bring it to life. And I love someone said that we're the action of someone's vision. The story, Trish, really also gave me a moment of just, being proud to be such a small part, but in a small part in such a big impact. And as a also fellow bureaucrat, you know, these places, I have paddled Town Creek with some friends and used the park as a weekend getaway, just as a citizen of North Carolina, and just really can't express my appreciation for what the community does with the funding.
Nancy, I do want to push back a little bit on your bureaucratic stance on this, because I will say that Brunswick Nature Park will always stand out to me as something that was really, really forward thinking, because the Clean Water Management Trust Fund, Brunswick County, and the Coastal Land Trust went into an MOU, which is something that we never did with restrictions before. And it allowed us to acknowledge that there was a lot here we knew, but there was still some we needed to figure out how it was going to best serve. And that flexibility has really allowed the park to become what it wanted to be and what the people wanted to be. And I'm not sure that people say that about state agencies very often, but I will tell you that this vision and flexibility has really contributed more than just a tiny bit.
Again, Trish, thank you for sharing your story and your perspective on this very special place. Thank you to all the partners that made it happen. I think this is maybe one of my very favorite Little Lunch lectures ever. I'll probably rewatch it. I'm super excited. But on that note, I do want to let everybody know that we have one more Little Lunch lecture of 2020 next Friday. Kate Dixon and Benjamin Jones of the North Carolina Mountains to Sea Trail will be with us, and they're going to talk about the trail, a little bit about the history, and they're going to focus a little on some new sections of that trail that are in the coastal plain. So another partnership moment next week, and another opportunity for you guys to learn about a place that you can be outside in nature and explore the coastal plain of North Carolina. We will take, sad to say, Christmas Day and New Year's Day off from Little Lunch lectures, but come back on January 8th and learn a little bit about Bird Island from Lauren Collodi from the Coastal Federation. Another partnership story about how to save land and conserve spaces for public use. So we've got a trifecta going on here. So I did want to mention that there is still an opportunity, if you haven't yet and would like to, submit a message, a video message to be delivered to Camilla Herlovic in celebration of her upcoming retirement. The Tribute app that we are using is open, and you may upload a video message to that, and those will be shared at some point in the future. We will we'll plan a retirement celebration. We were thinking about doing it this week, and it was crazy, and it was not going to work well. So we're going to do it at a time when we can do it well. So thanks for your patience on that. And I think that's about it, all the announcements. So we'll see you guys next week. Have a great weekend. Go outside. I think it's going to be pretty. We'll talk to you soon. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you all.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
Trish.
Thank you all.